Another example would be people that have found the work that suits them. First of all, to have work. There'd be people that want to have work and accomplishments and to be like other people and to make a contribution. And again, there'd be so many examples of people who have found jobs that really, I mean, there's a mother I know, and she was telling me one of her daughters who has a disability, there too, and she works part-time, 3 days a week or something like that. But on the days that she doesn't work, you can't get her out of bed in the mornings. It's just like torture. But on the days that she is going to work, she's up at 6:30 dressed and you can hardly contain her. She's eager to get to work. So work has kind of been a light in her life. And yet she isn't a naturally easy person to get up in the morning, but somehow all that fades away when it's the day she goes to the job she likes. So again, these are all simple things, but they are the right things for that person. And so in this sense, right things are the things we need to be looking for, and that will be different from one person to another. And again, it doesn't matter what age you're at, the question's always going to be, is this really a good match for the person? And again, the way to know this is, of course, to know the person. The better we understand people, the better we're going to be at interpreting some of these things and being more helpful. But one never proceeds successfully on the basis of ignorance of the person. And yet, we are all going to have to be very careful to recognize our ignorance of the person and our misreading of the person. That the challenge of, in a sense, the quality of attention that we give to people, because people will show us, but if we're not paying attention, we miss it. But people are showing us constantly what's working for them, what isn't. But if we don't pick up on it, then we'll be less successful. So it's very important to recognize that you can be instructed by people, but you have to be a kind of student of the person and submit to them rather than submit to your view of them. In that sense, we want to, in a sense, fashion people to be the people we'd like them to be, but ultimately that's not going to work. At some point, the final answer has to be what they seem to be built to be, and to somehow find a way to work with that. For instance, you take something as simple as employment. There are agencies that are very good at getting people jobs, and jobs that they stay in and that the people like. These are agencies that when they started out getting people jobs, it was all new to them. But over time, they've gotten much better. And then again, you can find jurisdictions where, for instance, the employment rate for people with disabilities would be, say 70% of people are working. Something like that. It's a very high number, but yet you could go to another jurisdiction, another state, and the average numbers would be half of that. So you can see there's a difference because the outcomes are different. And so obviously the state that has better outcomes has better strategies. And how did they get there? And then if you were trying to study how that was done, then you got to go back and identify what were the active ingredients of getting that number up to 70%, for instance. So if you kind of keep that in mind, you'll find that agencies might have a kind of set of gifts or niches in which they do well, but not necessarily on every other thing do they do well. So in this way, like people, agencies may have strengths that have helped people flourish, but only in some dimensions. And in other ways, they're not particularly remarkable. Yet, what they have achieved ought to be recognized as making a difference.